Okay, new week, new pasuk. Mishlei Yud Aleph Chaf Daled 11:24. Yesh mefazer v'nosaf od v'chosech miyosher achla machzor. Okay, not choshech, not darkness. Okay, so anyone want to take a stab at translating that? The word that I thought people might not know I put here.
So, okay, so fuzzer is scatter. Okay, so there is like scattered stuff.
Yeah, so this is going to be there's a person who scatters. I'll say there's one who scatters. One who scatters.
Vinosaf ode, and it still continues.
So you what do you call it? That is a good guess because this is looks like it's from Yasaf, like your name, but this is actually actually it is from Yasaf. What am I saying? So what's the other meaning of other than continue?
Gather, Asaf.
No, the other meaning of Yasaf.
Oh, add?
And adds, yeah. And yeah.
Still adds, okay.
Yeah, and still adds or still let's say increases. That sounds more eloquent, yeah. The chosech miyosher. So chosech is to withhold or to refrain, also to keep, hold in check, refrain, spare, reserve, things like that.
Okay. And refrains from yosher, like
yeah, and one who refrains, yeah, from yeah, we'll leave that vague. Straightness, or I think our scroll typically likes to say uprightness.
Okay, achla machzor. So, but I mean, what is but doing there?
Yeah, so but or only. The other way to translate it is only. I think only works better here. Yeah.
And what's machzor?
Machzor is not the. Yeah. I was gonna say not the thing you daven out of on Yom Kippur. Is only for loss. Okay, and then Chaim and Ariel, if you guys are feeling deja vu, it's because this morning's pasuk has the same conclusion. Okay, it just happened to work out that way. That this morning's pasuk also is Achla Machzor, but I don't know if they have anything to do with each other. Okay, all right. So let us now go to our. Oopsies. Let me delete this. Hold on. This never works the first time I do it. Delete and delete. Okay, so now let's look at the translations. Matsus David says chosek is monea. So he translates it as withholds. Okay, withholds. All right, Sad Yugaon. So Sad Yugaon here translates. We only have one word translation from Sad Yugaon, so he translates Yosher. Okay, actually, let me do this. I'm gonna actually type this as a transliteration, Yosher, and then I'll put it in parentheses or in parentheses just so we have some options here. Okay, so Sad Yugaon translates Yosher as. Okay, so just to remind you what Sad Yugaon does here. So Mishlei was written in Hebrew. Sad Yugaon translated it to Arabic, but in any translation you have to interpret. So he, in his translations, interprets certain words, and then Kafech translates it back into Hebrew and explains it. So he says Yosher is Hatov Haklali v'Havasranus, okay, which is universal good and generosity. Kolomar. He gives an interpretation. We're gonna ignore that conveniently right now. Okay. Targum Ksuvim says East Tafari to Mosif Tuv of Chasech min Turit Susa Husranale. That's just a straight translation. Okay, now let's look at our three English translations. Hold on here. Art Scroll says there is one who scatters and gathers more. Okay, so they do say gathers. That's interesting. I was pretty sure that this is Nosaf. I guess we do say in the beginning of Shemos, but Nosaf Gamhu also Enu. Okay, so let's just say it like this: and increases or gathers more. Okay, and one who refrains from what is proper. Okay, only for a loss. Or is only for a loss. Okay, that's pretty much the same. Living Nach says one person gives generously and gets back even more. So they add in the word gets back. Okay, which is a very, very that's an interpretation of Nosafo, not a translation. While another skimps on doing good and yet suffers a loss. Okay, that's another interpretation. Let's delete this. And then Alder says one man is spendthrift and gains all the more. Another saves honestly but comes to want. So he's translating chosech mi yosher is one who refrains out of yosher or from yosher, and he's translating as honesty, which I'll add in here. Okay, so those are our translation notes here. Okay, let's now list the questions. So what are the questions and problems?
Scattering what? What are we talking about?
Okay, so what does scatter mean in this context? Okay, scattering what? Yeah, it is funny, by the way, that there is no object here in the entire pasuk, only subjects and their verbs, right? There's a person who scatters and gathers more, doesn't say scatters what or more of what, and one who withholds doesn't say what he withholds, is only going to lack, doesn't say what. Yeah, and I think that's deliberate, because what would you say, just like, not necessarily you, what would you think it's talking about, or what are some candidates here?
Money.
Money, right? Okay, so money is one possibility. Okay, any other guesses as to other candidates?
Knowledge.
Okay, knowledge is another one. Okay, so far you're 2 for 2 in terms of in fact, those are the only interpretations I've seen. Okay, so the meforshim say it's either going to be money or knowledge, and here's what we should do. I think because the pshat is definitely going to be money, let's start working it out where we're assuming it's money, and then we will definitely, there's one interpretation I really want to try out with the knowledge thing, so we'll see that after. Okay, other questions?
Power. Can we also add power, or is
You
that
say power if you want? I don't know how you can. Okay, yeah, we could try it. Yeah, I didn't see anyone say that, but we could.
I'm just now speculating.
Yeah. Okay, we could try that.
So 2 things. The first question is, what exactly does it mean to refrain or withhold from yosher? Like, okay. I don't understand that.
Right. So let's actually, because just for the sake of clarity, I want to break that down into 2 questions. Okay, one question will be, what does yosher mean in this context? Maybe I should break it down to 3. What does refrain, withhold mean in this context? And then the other one is, what does the mem from, how does the mem relate refrain and yosher? Okay, I know that's kind of an awkwardly worded question, but I think that the fact that you can like restrain from like doing yosher or restrain because of yosher.
Yeah, and then also like on, I guess, all of those really.
Yeah.
I don't understand the relationship between, like, I can understand scattering and then withholding. Yeah. I guess it's because we don't know specifically what, but I also like, I think that's a question also, like, what is the relationship between the 2 and what are the main like implications of both? Of
scattering and withholding, you said?
Scattering and withholding.
Okay,
and
yeah.
That is, I think I'm just confused because yosher is really throwing me off because I, for some reason, feel like it shouldn't be in this pasuk. I don't know why.
Okay, that's fine. Can I expand your question to being about the entire pasuk and saying what is the opposites of the entire half? Because it does seem like gathering more is also the opposite of losing, right? So like, so the two halves seem to be opposites. Okay, but how exactly are they? Yeah. Okay, Ariel, do you know if Zach is planning on showing up tonight?
So I will say that he did tell me like a while ago that this year he's probably going to be on and off because he scheduling, and now that he's getting serious about work stuff.
Okay, so that's too bad for us. All right. Okay, what else?
Yeah, I mean, so what are we losing exactly? Lost for what?
Yeah. Lost. Oh, I thought I just said we're losing Zach, but okay. What is being lost? Yeah.
What are we losing if
what are the mechanics of this pasuk? Like
okay.
how do these
that's going to be a main question.
What do these cause and affect relationships?
Okay, so I'm going to pair 2 questions here on the first half also. What is being increased or gathered? Okay, and then what is being lost? Okay, now, so what, I like how you asked it. What are the mechanics of this pasuk? Okay, in other words, how do these actions result in these outcomes?
did we ask what the opposite is With the two
Well,
halves.
we said that the two halves seem to be opposites, but how?
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is fair to say that these are two opposites because both fourths are opposites of the other fourths, right?
Well,
Scattering and folding. But I know, Rifki, is this what was bothering you? That there's no opposite of Miyosher, seemingly, right?
That's what I was saying. I don't feel like
Okay, fine.
like, what is it doing there?
Okay, so I'm gonna add that to this. Okay, and how does Miyosher, okay, fit in with these opposites? Okay, it's sticking out like a sore thumb.
well,
It seems
like
you go first.
it seems like that what's it called? Refrains is the opposite of scatters, no?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but what Rifki say here? Let me highlight it for you, right? So, Yesh Mefazer is the opposite of Chosech, seemingly. Nosaf Od is the opposite of Ach Lamachzor, and what Rifki is saying is Miyosher doesn't have a Ben Zug, doesn't have a partner, right? And the problem is you could pair it with this, one who restrains from Yosher, but then it is weird that this doesn't really, Yesh Mefazer does not really like, it doesn't qualify. In other words, Miyosher is an added quality.
So what if we just like stick in the first half, like like the opposite of Miyosha, like like dishonest, or because a few pasukim ago we were doing the yasher and the the opposite of a yasher.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm just imagining how would the pasuk flow if we just like stick that word in there, just so I could. What was the opposite of a yasher again?
Bogade.
Bogade, yeah. What if we just stuck in that word?
It's hard to even know the opposite because it's hard to, because this is going to depend on whether this person is refraining from doing acts of Yosher, like being a Yosher, or in which case, like squandering Yosher, I guess you'd have to say Yesh Mefazer Yosher, or Yashrus, someone who scatters uprightness, or you're going to say one who withholds from or withholds due to Yosher or out of Yosher or because of Yosher. And then you'd have to say one who scatters because of, whatever the other thing is. I don't know. The answer to your question is I don't know, but I'm saying like, we're just noting that this seems to be sticking out.
I get it. No, I know.
Yeah. Like in other words, if this were gone, we wouldn't blink an eye. We would just say one who scatters will and gathers more, or will gather more, and one who I didn't even notice that. Hold on.
Yeah, I was about to say it's not the Ach Lamachzor. It's that one's an action. Venosaf Oda is an action. Ach Lamachzor is just a result that happens to him, which is just a weird parallel it's drawing on, right? Because Venosaf Oda is active.
Yeah, well, I tell me if this is the same question. I'm asking it in a slightly different way, which is, this seems to indicate an action. Oh, I see what you're saying. Hold on a second. This is an action and a result. One who scatters and gathers more, right? But and the second one is one who withholds is only for loss. That's also an action and a result. But the weird thing is it has this word "and," right? One who scatters and gathers more. It should say one who scatters gathers more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's it's a weird pairing as well, because like if you think about it, Mefazer is a person who, it's not really, it is an action, but it's a person who is doing Pazer, right? Yeah. Versus Chosech is just the action, right? And also, so that parallels weird. And also Venosaf Od and Ach Lamachzor, first of all, you have the Vav, like you said, but also Venosaf Od is just an action, but Ach Lamachzor is really like a condition. Right. Yeah. For loss is really a condition that you're under, unlike an action. So it's a weird pairing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lump all these into one question, and this is going to be a weirdly worded question. Okay. What's up with all the syntactical asymmetries? Right. So what's up with all syntactical asymmetries? Okay. So in the first half, it describes a type of person and states the outcome in the form of another verb, okay, joined by the word and. But in the second half, it describes an action, okay, withholding, and and states the outcome in the form of a result, right? Only for loss. It's not. So in other words, it's not parallel. It's not parallel, and the syntax is weird. Weird. Yeah, I know it's not the most eloquent question, but I think that's like what we're sensing here. Okay.
You say that question again, but in less.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So in other words, like this: there is one who scatters. Yesh mefazer. There is one who scatters. So you would expect the second half to say yesh, chosech, but it just says, what it really says? A restrainer or withholder. Okay, so it's not exactly equal. All right, that's one weird thing. Second weird thing is the first part says you would expect it to say, and I think I expected this so much that I just thought it. I thought it was saying there's one who scatters and hold on a second. And like gets an increase. But this says there's one who scatters, that's verb number 1, and increases more, that's verb number 2. So it's stating the cause and the effect as verbs. Second one is, and a restrainer from Yosher is only for loss, is stating like a result. So this is not the biggest question. It just doesn't read so smoothly, Yeah. Okay, what else?
I got another question. Like, who are these people? Like, are these like examples of like in action, or is this like a personal type or
yeah. Okay, good. So
type?
I'm gonna put this up here. So who are the individuals here? Okay, are these is the pasuk describing habitual actors or one-time actions? Right? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
But it says only for a loss.
Yeah.
It says there's only one outcome of this, not just a loss.
Okay, yeah, that's another good question. Right.
Not
So
multiple possible outcomes.
right. How can it say that the result? How can the second half say that the result is only for loss? Okay, what does this mean? And how is it true? All right, is that all? I think we do have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this can kind of be worked into other questions.
Yeah.
But like, what are the motives of these actions, and like, is there a chiddush in the outcomes?
Okay. Are you asking that to be like edgy from my whole motive methodology talk this morning?
No, but it happens to be I really liked the motive thing earlier because of the way that it like spelt out. Like, whatever, I'll explain tomorrow. But
okay.
But
all right.
no. Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first of all, I'm going to kind of, this question is so unimportant, but I want to keep it here, but I'm not going to list it in our question. I'm going to make it small. And so let's do this. Let's ask that question. Fine. All right. What are the motives of the individuals in this pasuk? Okay. And then I think we do have to ask our normal question, which is, who is the intended audience of this pasuk? The practical ramifications, it does not seem we have to ask about, because it seems to be saying that scattering is a good thing and withholding from Yosher is a bad thing, right? So there we don't have to like just ask that question. Okay. Are we good?
I guess so.
Okay. So just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna color code this just so we can have just so we can see what corresponds to what.
To be honest, this is like I feel like this is the most vaguest pasuk I've ever experienced. I don't know why I'm having.
Well, here's the weird thing about this pasuk. So the weird thing about this pasuk is that you can read it kind of without thinking, and you'll get like a sense of what it means. Like, oh, like scattering stuff is good because you'll get more, and like withholding is bad because you'll end up with less. But then like when you scrutinize it, then it starts to get all weird.
It's just like, how do you? The problem with this pasuk, and this could be like an interesting methodological, I don't know, insight.
Yeah.
It's just, there's like, it doesn't say anything about what it like scattering.
Yeah.
Like,
Doesn't say what you're talking about.
You're supposed to guess something and like,
yeah,
just
Yeah.
so like unless we have to come up with the second half of the pasuk first in order to squeeze something out of there and just stick it in the first half of the pasuk.
Yeah.
But like, even then it's a little.
So that's why I'm going to highly recommend that we assume that the pasuk is talking about money. Okay. And then we'll go through, because that's what the pshat is. Okay. And then afterwards, I want to work through and see if it's what it would be if it's talking about knowledge. Okay. But let's all work on the same money thing for now. Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's do what we always do, which is take 1 minute to just think. Okay. And then we're starting a new practice this year, right? Which is that after our thinking minute, then people who have full or near full ideas get the first crack at it. Okay. So let's take a minute to think.
Question.
Yeah? Sure.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I don't know if we addressed this because there's just like a lot going on,
Yeah.
but I feel like in the second half, clearly there's something that's negative. Like there's clearly
Yes, right.
consequence, but I feel in the first half, like I don't see what is positive about that. Like I don't know if I'm missing something or like.
Okay, well let me give you a hint. I don't even think that this is like I'm not revealing anything because I think this is like I think this is like a unanimous thing. Okay, so if this is talking about money, and if scattering is being depicted as a good thing, then what would you say just on a pshat level scattering refers to?
Tzedakah.
Okay, tzedakah, right? But then what's implied by like scattering?
Like it's not
Like
yeah.
So scattering is some sort of, so you don't even need to answer that. Scattering would be some sort of beyond, like above average tzedakah, right? And you have to work out what does it mean to scatter it, right? So it's saying if you scatter your money in tzedakah, that's kind of what you kind of have to add there, then you will increase more or gather more. But if you withhold your money, mi yosher, whatever that means, or if you withhold mi yosher, so it's either if you withhold from doing uprightness or if you withhold your money due to uprightness. I don't even know what that's saying. So then that's only for loss. So does that help you, Rivki, in terms of like having something to work on for the first half?
Yeah, because I mean, like that's a specific idea. So
yeah.
Quick question also before quiet minute.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this before. You said we should think about money. If I have an idea for knowledge, should I hold off on that?
You should hold off on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should withhold it. Yeah.
When you say scatter, does that mean you're not scrutinizing?
So that's a possible answer. Yeah, I am not yet defining what a scatter is, so we'll have to define that. That's our first question. Okay, so let's take a minute and think. If anyone has any more questions to add, then you can interrupt, but let's just take a minute to think, okay? I have another question to add. Okay. Which is I'm gonna add this to the first question, okay, which is like or you know what? I'm gonna add this to the seventh question, okay? In the first half, okay, why does this beneficial result require scattering specifically? Okay, why isn't giving enough, right? Apparently it could have just said yesh no sein v'no. There's a person who gives tzedakah and gets more, but apparently you have to scatter it. Okay, back to thinking. Okay, Yosef, you're up.
All right, so I'm not sure if this is fully baked out or not, but maybe it's saying like the social benefit of charity, right, is that when you scatter it, right, if you just give a lot to one place, so that doesn't like define you socially as a donator,
okay,
right? But now if you give to a lot of different places and you're donating even maybe the same money, but just to a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
So now you will gain a lot of power or like social affluence because people will think of you as a benevolent person. Right.
Okay.
But
that's a very Mishlei motive, by the way. That's a very Mishlei motive. I like it.
Yeah. And so then the ending is saying that the person who thinks that they're gonna have more power from having their money, right? But actually, I don't know how I'm translating Yosher here, but I'm translating I'm understanding so a person who's like restraining, and Yosher could be donating, which would make sense. But the person who would restrain and try to keep their power in their money will have less power because they won't have the people on their side.
Okay. So let me. I think this is actually fit to type out just for our notes here. Okay, so we have, and again, I'm going to say this more for myself. I'm going to really try to take notes this year. Okay, as we go. So Yosef is basically saying. So I think you're also answering the question: who is this pasuk for? Who do you say this pasuk's for?
Rich people.
But rich people with a certain motive, right?
Yeah, who want power.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So this pasuk, this is addressed to rich people who seek the power that comes from being viewed as generous, right?
Yeah.
So if they scatter their wealth, okay, donating money, spreading their money among many recipients, then this reputation will come to them, right? But if they now, how are you learning restrain? I know you said you're not learning what Yosher is, but what's the
yeah? So I actually think I got it, but I think or someone who will try to keep their money. I don't actually. It's like a positive versus negative instead of positive versus neutral, which is strange. But it's like a person who tries to keep their money power.
Okay, so let me broaden this then, right? So the audience is rich people who seek status and power from their money, right? So
yeah,
the person who's spreading the money among many recipients is getting that. Then they'll get a reputation as being a benevolent, a generous rich person. But if they try to hold on to power by keeping their money, then they'll lose out on that influence, right?
Yeah.
In other words, people might still view them as what do you call it? As like rich and like admire them, but no one's gonna like be, not admire is the wrong word. People will like take note of their accomplishment. People are not gonna be like looking up to them in a way that gives them any influence.
Right.
Okay,
yeah. It's also specifically mefazer because if you're donating to one place, it's not like a shame of a person, right? It's not like defining them.
Right.
Yeah.
So as opposed to one. Okay. All right. Good. That's a good approach. All right, Rivki.
So actually, I'm not sure if this is like a similar idea or different, but I think it actually works well.
Yeah.
So I wasn't thinking about this pasuk in terms of only speaking to rich people. I was actually thinking about it in a more like global aspect.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that for the person who's giving the tzedakah, I know like we often like talk about like halachas of like, okay, like, or I don't know if it's a halacha or just a recommendation. I think it's a halacha, but like those like ideas about, oh, first you give to like your family or then the people, that whole thing. And I was thinking that this pasuk can really be like, no, like the point of tzedakah isn't just to like help the community, but it also to a certain extent is for yourself in terms of like making yourself give to the community and recognizing that you're a greater part in that community. And I think it humbles you. Like we always talk about that as an idea.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that in terms of not necessarily just for the community, but you're also helping in terms of your own character traits, because you're not just like, oh, I'm going to give it to like, you know, my brother because he really wants to like, I don't know, like get new AirPods or whatever it is. And I'm gonna help him out, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think that like specifically in this scattering fashion, you're expanding your own character traits in that way. And then obviously the opposite half would be that if you're not doing that at all, like you're not going to improve in that quality of whatever this is specifically speaking about.
Okay.
It's gonna have the opposite result.
Just to make sure I get it, I kind of missed where you got the community thing from. Is it because the meforshim implies like distant, like scattered?
Yeah, meaning
okay,
like,
fine.
yeah, like
Okay.
not, it's like everything around you. It doesn't even have to be your specific community, but I think that obviously in Mishlei it makes the most sense, because then you could say like they also, like Yosef was saying, with your reputation and with, you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so this pasuk is talking about the benefits of tzedakah on your own character development, right? Which is a separate track than like halachic resource allocation priorities, right? In other words, there are halachic recommendations for like how you should allocate it, but when it comes to your own character development, then like that's its own consideration. Okay, and what it's telling you is by spreading your tzedakah far and wide, beyond the people who are close to you. Okay, you are insert character development benefits, right? I mean, I think we should spell that out, right? But you're not really like taking a judgment on like what exactly those benefits are, right? But if you, okay, I think this is a cool thing. Okay, so how would you, according to your interpretation, translate chosech mi yosher? I think this works out really well for you.
Okay, I have to think about it because I was just thinking, can I say two more things before I forget?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so the other two things it actually relates to the second half is that the loss you're really losing is, first of all, like the community is losing, or whoever.
Okay, good.
And then on top of that, like because we're talking specifically about character traits, you're literally losing out on this whole other world.
Okay, good. That works out really well. Okay, so let me modify what I've written so far. So you are gaining. So you are gaining character development benefits and improving the system, right, that you're a part of. So it's a double benefit, which might be why it's saying no stuff owed. You're gathering like extra, right? But okay, now, yeah, do you think you can answer my question, or can anyone answer on behalf of Rivki? You got the first crack at this, but how would you translate v'chosech mi yosher based on your idea?
Oh, you're saying from like a halachic standpoint?
Say again?
Are you saying from like a halachic standpoint?
No, I'm saying from the standpoint of your idea. Yeah, does someone want to say something?
I was going to say something.
If you want to go first?
No, you can go first. I'm thinking.
Okay. Maybe it's just like becoming a better person, right?
Yeah.
Because the Yosher here is like growth.
Yeah.
Right. To become an upright person, right? They're losing out on that.
Okay.
Character development.
So the interesting thing about this, okay, so what it's talking about here, this person in the second half is not necessarily withholding money, right? But what they are withholding is they're exercising improper restraint in the development of their character. Okay, and I'll give you a couple examples of this. Okay, there are ways to give the same amount of tzedakah give me someone construct a case where you have two people who give the same amount of tzedakah, but one does it in a way that is better for their character, and the other one loses out on that. I can come up with a couple examples, but I just want to hear from you.
Yeah, one is where you give a $1 bill versus 100 pennies individually.
Okay, that's a good. Oh, you mean because of the convenience issue, right? Like,
no, it's because it's the activity of giving to.
Oh, fine. Okay, yeah. I thought you were speaking of the small amounts. Okay, so you're referring to like the Rambam's idea of I actually plan to give a Sunday share on this Sunday. That it's better to do many in order to get the midah of generosity than doing many individual acts of generosity is going to give you the midah more than doing it all in one shot. Okay, so that was the first example I was thinking of, actually. Okay, that's good. Anyone think of another one just to get?
Yeah, I was thinking Like there's two ways that you can like give it, like with your mannerisms and stuff like that. You can either like give it with like a smile and like ask them how their day's going and things like that, or you can just be like, here's your dollar.
Okay, right. So the manner in which you give it can be kind and empathetic, or it could be harsh. That's another good example. And I was going to say a third example of I think that if you, let's say you just like donate, let's say all the donations you make are just online, right? Now, obviously that's better.
I was about to say, yeah.
You want to say it? Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's whether you are personally involved in it, meaning that you are actually doing the action, or whether you are doing the result, quote unquote.
Right, exactly. Right. So if
getting money to people
online, it might be a very efficient way to do it, and that's better than nothing. But actually interacting with the poor people and like seeing what it is to be poor and like seeing the effect of the money on them is a different level, and you're gonna get more character development. So I think Rivki would say, based on her interpretation, but one who withholds from character development from Yosher, okay, which here is developing an upright character, okay, even if they give money, okay, is only for loss because they're losing out on this Mishleic benefit, and will cause a loss to the community, because guess what? If you're developing your character, you're going to end up doing more tzedakah for the community. And if you don't, then you're not helping the community as much. Okay, that's a nice, complete idea, Rivki. That was good. Okay, good.
Real quick, on the point of the tzedakah, like the better and worse ways, I thought isn't there like doesn't like the Rambam like spells out the different levels? Isn't the highest level tzedakah like you like put it somewhere, or like you go to the person's house, or like you just like give it to like someone, and like you don't know who it's going to, they don't know where they're getting it from, like.
So from a halachic standpoint, you're correct, right? That the highest level is giving anonymously and receiving anonymously, but that doesn't mean that developmentally that's the right thing that you should do, right? In other words, the person, let's say I'll give you an example from what we said before. Let's say you have a person, there's certain people who probably because of their upbringing or the way that their parents relate to it are very squeamish around the poor, right? So if a person like that said, I'm going to give tzedakah on the highest level, I'm going to donate anonymously, I'm never going to see a poor person or touch them or interact with them or smell them in my life, right? I'd say that person is avoiding developing their character, right? That's the person who needs to invite the poor people into their home on Yom Tov, like at their family meal, you know? So I think that's an important distinction, though. And I think that like underscores the point that Rivki was making in her first move, which is that what is proper halachically might not be the best for your course of development, which is why like a lot of these tzedakah things are guidelines, you know, but for your particular development, you might need to like work on a certain thing, you know, like for certain people, you know, you might need to give tzedakah. I remember like when I was, I know I've said this before, but like, you know, when I was in yeshiva, my job was to give out the tzedakah from the yeshiva. And I remember being like there were people who would just like snatch the money out of my hands, you know, in like this rude and abrupt way. And that really bothered me. And I realized like I needed to get over that, you know, because these people had like mental health issues and, you know, and like we're not, or social relationship issues, and they couldn't do that. So like I needed to do that, you know, and regardless of like whether what they were doing was right or not, you know, for my own development. Okay, Rivki, good idea. All right. Next, and I guess most of you haven't, yeah.
Let me just add on to my idea from before we move on. I think that it also fits with grammatically, like on our question before, because Vinosaf Od is active because it's not just a condition he's under, right? He's actually gaining power. Achlamachsor is just something he's just losing out. He's just a victim.
That does work out grammatically, right? He's actively giving and actively gaining, right?
Yeah.
In terms of building his character, right? And the other guy is withholding, and then there's just a result that you get, just like boom, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Okay, so next, most of you have not met my dad, so this is my dad joining us tonight. Okay, so what's your idea?
So it's kind of late in the game to do this, but I want to challenge the idea that scatter means only tzedakah.
Okay.
And by scattering your money, it may also include doing business with multiple different entities. So you don't always buy from Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme. Sometimes you go to a local bakery. Sometimes you go to buy Entenmann's.
Yeah.
And then you develop, when you're doing business with someone,
Yeah.
you really develop a relationship with that person.
Right.
And it has an element of what do they call it? When you connect with the community.
Camaraderie? No.
No, I'll think of the word. Anyway.
Yeah. I have the perfect anecdote for you to describe that. And sorry, did I interrupt you? Were you gonna say something more than that? Okay, so perfect anecdote. I'm trying to remember who I heard this from. I'm looking on my bookshelf.
Networking is a word I was looking for. You're
Okay,
networking with other people.
Yeah. Okay,
and
that's
that
good.
Increases your wealth.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. So that's good. I'm gonna give an anecdote. I just gotta get the name right. Give me 1 second. This is from Rabbi Mark Angel. Okay, I forgot which angel it was. So Rabbi Mark Angel said that he apprenticed with a shul rav once. Okay, and the shul rav, he asked to meet with this rav, and the rav said, this was on a Friday, and he said, like, I need to go shopping for on Erev Shabbos, So he said, sure. So he went to the grocery store. This is like in the 70s or something. Like he went to the grocery store and bought carrots. Okay. Then he walked to like the produce store and bought like celery. And then he walked to another grocery store and bought potatoes. So like this Rabbi Angel asked like his mentor, like, why are you going to all these places? And why don't you just like buy all your groceries in one place? And the rabbi said, he says, my congregants need to know that their rabbi supports their businesses. And like it's important for them to see that, that and to make those human connections. Yeah. Okay. So I think that does work. Yeah. We're not just talking about doing tzedakah with money. We're talking about all sorts of chesed and tzedakah in action and in giving your time and in all this other stuff. And yeah, that creates more of a benefit to the system, and it also gets more benefit for you, both in terms of like what Yosef was saying about like the way people look at you, and also in terms of what Rifki was saying is you create more opportunities to interact with people for character development purposes. So I think that is not a new interpretation, but it plugs in nicely to the two interpretations we have. Okay, Ariel, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to take the knowledge approach.
Okay, hold on a second. So hold off on the knowledge one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Chaim's before you. Yeah, Ayala?
I was going to say about Rifki's, I don't know if this was already said kind of, but like, can we expand it to more, not even just like chesed and money, but just like things like efforts in general, and like kind of like the idea of lifnei misher hadin, like from the same word of like straightness, of like when you're like kind of a stickler about like what the rule is, and like you don't really have room to go above and beyond it. So scatters is saying that like when you are able to like be more fluid with your energy, then you're able to try out new things and like really gain more.
Okay, so I actually was going to take that approach. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and combine our approaches here. So I was going to take the approach of mefazer means indiscriminate giving, right? Where you are not like picky about who you give to, and you give indiscriminately. And we'll see what nosef od means. And I was going to say, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, Ayala, do you have a take on what chosech miyosher means?
I was saying that like, because you're like kind of trying to do it right, you're like almost trying too hard.
All right, I was thinking the same thing, right? So the motive could even be good here, right? In the sense that you want to do it right, but there are people who are so, this is again the phrase that's attributed to Voltaire: "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." It's good to strive for perfection, but there are people who strive for perfection in a way which diminishes the amount of good that they do, right? So I let's say like this, okay? So I'm going to start with the second half, okay? The second half describes someone who is so preoccupied with trying to do perfect tzedakah, that they end up losing out on the opportunity to do any good, right? I.e., they let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay. In contrast, the first half describes someone who is indiscriminate, okay, in giving, okay, which so in other words, even though it's possible that some individual acts of tzedakah could have been better, okay, he will this person will accomplish far more net good for himself. I'm going to join this statement if you say it for themselves and for the community. Am I missing any nuance in your idea, Ayala?
I mean, I was just saying, I think it's like broader than money, but like I guess specifically if the meforshim say money, then that.
Okay, no, we can say did I say money? No, I said tzedakah. So I mean all forms of tzedakah. Right. Okay, that's good. I actually read a good quote. Hold on just a second here. This is not directly related, but I just want to quote it from the Vampire Chronicles, which I'm rereading right now. That the main character is describing a leader, and he says, deep in my mind, a thought did flash for a moment that so he's talking about being a leader, one who commands must of necessity be wildly imperfect, boldly pragmatic, capable of compromises, impossible for the truly wise and the truly good. Okay, and that made me think about the fact that like in other words, there are some people who are leaders, but who are so, to use a derogatory term, such control freaks that they need to orchestrate every single little thing. And sometimes the better leader is the person who makes things happen and is willing to just distribute the good indiscriminately, even if it means like being bold in certain cases. Yeah, I think that's what I meant by boldly pragmatic. Yeah. Okay, good idea, Ayala. Yeah, Avi.
Yeah, okay, so I was thinking about Rivki's idea.
Yeah.
And about the definition of Yosher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of want to diverge a little bit. So here it has yeah, sure. So it has Yosher, or I guess the definition of someone who restrains from Yosher being restraining from Yosher. And I have an idea about restraining because of Yosher.
Yeah.
About you guys were talking about the sort of like tzedakah priority and like wanting to give to people close to you.
Right.
And so I'm just thinking it could be possible that the reason someone might want not to scatter their money could be because of their uprightness, right? Wanting to give to people close to them, giving them priority.
Right. Okay, that is definitely good also, right? So are you still going with the notion that the second half is describing a bad decision in this case?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, that's a good example. All right, good. Okay, so I just want to show you one of the meforshim, and then we'll go on to the knowledge thing where we'll have Chaim and then Ariel. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So I feel like most of us have heard of the notion that like if you give tzedakah, then like you'll get stuff back, right? And I think a lot of people grow up with like a sort of a magical idea about that. Whatever. I'm not going to address that, but bear that in mind when we read Sadikon. Okay, so Sadikon says like this. Ze medaber be'inyan hatzedakos. This is talking about tzedakah. Shenemar behen, that is, it says about it. Ki biglal hadavar hazeh yivrechacha Hashem elakacha b'chol ma'asecha u'b'chol mishlach yadacha. That because of this thing, because of tzedakah, Hashem your God will bless you in all of your actions and in all of your endeavors. Amar, Shlomo said, Im nasata davar letzedakah, if you give something to tzedakah, umanisa es hamaos, and you count your money afterwards, umatasa shechasru, and you find that your money has been diminished, al tadam she'avan mehem davar. Do not imagine that you lost anything. Okay, why? Because the thing you lost is something that's bringing you from olam hazeh into olam haba. From a place where I don't know if this is talking about you or the money. You or the benefits, where you are not permanent to a place where you are permanent. From a place where you are where you need to guard it, like if you have money, you need to guard it against being stolen, to a place where you don't need to guard it. Ella hu yishmor oscha, but rather it will guard you. So what I liked about that is he's talking about to the guy who is counting his money and saying, oh no, I had $100 and I gave away $10. Now I only have 90. And he's like bemoaning the fact that he's lost $10. And what Sadigon is doing is saying, yeah, you lost the money, but that's not the currency we're dealing with. The currency we're dealing with is your soul. And in the realm of your soul, you're perfecting yourself. You're gaining like permanent attributes in terms of like your relationship to justice, and you are exchanging it for like something that's worth much more, where it is then benefiting you. You're investing in like this, the money was just sitting here that you could have spent on like stuff. And now you're spending it in perfection of your character, which will have this net effect on your life. So that's not saying any one of our exact ideas, but I think it is just encapsulating the attitude you should have when you are faced with the decision of like scattering your money in this manner that it's describing. So I think it complements all three of the interpretations that we have so far. Yeah, Rifki?
Yeah. According to Sadigon, do you think I guess this is a more general question of lishma and not lishma, but do you think that someone who is giving tzedakah without getting these ideas is still in that realm of what Sadigon is describing, or is it more of like a scale, like a spectrum?
Good question. I think someone who gives tzedakah, even without understanding the benefits, at the very least is breaking their attachment to money and recognizing that the money is not theirs to decide what to do with, and also acknowledging the fact that other people have needs. And all of those benefits are going to happen even on an unconscious level, because that's the act that you're doing, and they'll get benefit from that as well. So I think that a lot of these benefits, I don't know what Sadigon means particularly about the effect on Olam Haba, but if Olam Haba is coming to you because you're refining your midos, and perfection of midos helps you in your pursuit of knowledge, which gets you Olam Haba, then that person, even who doesn't understand anything, is moving towards Olam Haba by their tzedakah. It's a good question though. Okay, Chaim, you're up. Now let's switch gears and say it's about money.
You mean knowledge?
Sorry, about knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like once you like decide that the pasuk's about knowledge, I think it's kind of obvious.
Okay.
So I hope it's not too obvious. But so for the first half, so the not the object of the pasuk, the audience of the pasuk.
The audience. Okay.
Yeah, the audience is like someone who's looking for knowledge and looking to like increase their knowledge, qualitatively, quantitatively, all the same. So someone who scatters is somebody who like is indiscriminate about who they learn with and like who they teach and who they like talk ideas with. Halom Mikol Adam, and then also like you learn the most from your students, that kind of thing.
Right.
And like that like bleeds into the gathers more, because they're willing to just be like a I don't know, a wellspring of knowledge, right? Then and they're willing to interact with all these other types of people, and they can then they have the ability to grab more. And then when you restrain, so restraining for like Yosher can be, I think there's two reasons that someone would not do like the first half, and it would be for like a good cause. Is one is for their own benefit. They would think that if I learn with this person or if I interact with these people, then it will do the opposite. It won't bolster my learning as much, and it won't help me perfect my ideas as much. But then also they're going to think that if I just learn with them and I'm on a higher level than them and I was giving them the ideas, then it's not going to help their learning as much either. And I'm really going to be hurting them. So that's like another rationalization you can make for not doing that. But in the end, like you're going to lose, they're going to lose. And like the best way to get like a sum gain is to like, kind of spread out and like, scatter your knowledge, I guess.
Okay, good. I think that is a new idea, and I think the new idea comes from the mefazer and the chosech miyosher, right? In other words, let's just differentiate between the old idea and the chiddush, right? The old idea is I learn a lot from my rebbes, I learn more from my friends, and I learn the most from my students. So we know that by teaching, then you're going to gain knowledge. But within teaching, you can be very selective, right? For many different reasons, right? Whether it's from, like you were saying, all under Yosher, right? Like, in other words, it's, maybe this is not the best for my learning. Maybe this is not the best for the student. Maybe like it's not right for me to like X, Y, Z. Maybe like I need the best conditions. I need to use, they're all, anyone, and having talked to many of my friends in yeshiva who are not educators, but who have opportunities to teach and then are on the fence about whether to teach, you can always find excuses for not teaching, and the example Rabbi Moskowitz always quotes, hold on, I'm going to get this book. I didn't plan on this. Where do I keep this book? Give me 1 second. Okay, the example Rabbi Moskowitz always gives is in the Chovos HaLevavos, Rבינו Bachya ibn Pekуда, when he's talking about his decision to write the book, okay, says that he almost didn't write it, okay. Anyone know why? I'm stalling while I find it. Okay, give me a second. He says, reasons for writing this book. Yeah. So he goes and he talks about like this whole decision to write it, and like he talks about his whole plan and how this is going to be great. And then he says like this, but when I considered acting on my decision to write the book, I realized that a man like myself was unworthy of authoring such a work. I thought my powers too limited to systematize the material as it should be done, the subject being too difficult for me, my knowledge too limited, my mind too weak to grasp the ideas. Okay, so that seems to be a thing, right? Why write a book if you're not qualified, right? Like, and he's telling himself he's not qualified. Furthermore, I do not possess an elegant style in Arabic in which the book would have to be written, as it is the language which is best understood by the majority of my contemporaries. I fear that I would be undertaking a task which would succeed only in exposing my own shortcomings, and that I would be exceeding the bounds of discretion. Therefore, I resolved to drop my plans and call off my decision. Okay, spoiler alert, he didn't do that. After resolving not to assume this heavy burden, but to give up the project, I began to suspect that I had taken the easy way out and that I had been lazy, looking for peace and quiet. I fear that what had motivated the cancellation of the project had been the desire for self-gratification, which had driven me to seek ease and comfort, to opt for inactivity and to sit idly by. Okay, and then he goes on and he says, oh yeah, he says, I'm gonna read this. This is pretty good. I knew that quite a few intellectual achievements had been prevented by fears, and that many failings were the result of self-doubt. Oh, okay. This is a man talking to my soul. I remember the saying, part of caution is to not be too cautious. I love that. Okay. I told myself that if everyone who intended to perform some good act or to teach what is right and virtuous kept silent and stood still until he felt perfectly qualified, not a word would have been spoken by any man since the prophets, whom God had chosen as his messengers and strengthened him with his support. If everyone who wanted to perfect himself with all the best qualities and was unable to attain them all were to forsake those qualities which he had managed to attain, all men would be empty of virtue and deficient in what is admirable. We would all be racing after false hopes. The paths of virtue would be desolate, the dwelling places of kindness deserted. I realized further that, okay, then he goes on. Okay, he goes on. So in other words, he basically realized, so all those reasons he gave at the very beginning were reasons that are yosher, right? He's saying like, I'm not qualified, I'm going to make mistakes. Like people aren't going to understand what I say. And then he realized that was his Yetzer Hara. Yeah, Chaim?
Yeah, I think like that passage specifically also, I think fits into, I think it was Ayala's idea about like everything has to be like perfect before
right,
you
exactly.
can go and do anything or say anything.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right, right, good. And then the other guy, that's the second half. So the first half, so what's going to happen is he's going to lose out and other people are going to lose out. I think that fits in with both of them. But the guy in the first half is indiscriminate. He teaches. Now, again, this does not mean that like a person fresh out of high school starts giving shiur, you know, like it doesn't mean like it doesn't mean that you teach in any way possible. It means though that you are less discriminate and you teach within your realm. And so within the realm of your ability, like like Chovos Halevavos never would have said, you know, I don't know anything about calculus, but I'm going to write a book on calculus. Like that's not smart, right? So there is a line, but like it means that you're indiscriminate about it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing more teaching, getting more feedback, having more students, spreading more knowledge, and then it's all going to be good. Okay, good. And I'll just give an example of this. I mean, again, this was when I said this is a man who speaks to my heart. I mean, this was the challenge when I started teaching in yeshiva because I don't feel qualified I feel qualified as a high school teacher. I don't feel qualified to teach in yeshiva. And I forced myself to do, I didn't know this pasuk, but I forced myself to do this by literally making all of my shiurim available for free in recorded form to everybody in the world, right? And it forced me to, it led to interactions which I never would have had before. It led to teaching opportunities which I never had. And again, it's mefazer also because like let's take like today, right? Like I spent over the last 24 hours, I spent all those hours writing answers for questions for some like cure organization that I don't even know if they're going to publish it. They're not paying me for it. You know, like I'm just doing it because getting Torah out there is like, that's being mefazer, you know? And like, I'm confident that like, if enough Torah gets out there, then good things will happen for me and for everyone else. And I know they've happened for me because I'm gaining the benefit from teaching. So pardon my use of myself as an example, but like, I think it's, I having been in this decision-making position, you know, people used to tell me like why, you know, before I was teaching, when I was just writing on my blog, people were like, why are you writing if there's a chance that you're gonna like make mistakes? Like Reb Chaim, didn't write. He barely wrote anything in his life, you know, and that is the stance that the Briskers took. And I think that they didn't take this approach, you know, and I humbly disagree. I think I think the fact that like our rebbeim in yeshiva have recorded all their shiurim, I think it has been for the net benefit of everybody, and I think our rebbeim haven't taken this approach either. So I'm following our rebbeim, not the Briskers. Yeah. Okay. Ariel, you had an idea?
Yeah, it's 100% the same as kind
okay. Great minds. Okay, good.
So, but I do want to add to the idea, and I think a lot of the things that we were talking about, with like money or tzedakah, like literally just substitute knowledge with money, and
right.
I think that to your point about with regards to I think it was Rivka's idea where she said that like if you you have the halakha he's speaking at is better to do the tzedakah like in a hidden way.
Yeah.
And you added to that where like like personality wise, like he cringes when he sees the the ani, and like he does give charity. It's not really perfecting him.
Yeah.
So like to your point, I would even add on that like for you maybe like you give more in-person shiurim instead of like just putting it on the cloud.
Let's just pause.
No, but I don't mean you specifically. I just mean like the it just you use yourself as an example. It was like an easy target. I'm just saying that like
oh, Ariel.
yes. I just mean like you could apply that same same idea too, like just to go further in what Chaim Zifkin's approach was.
Okay, good. All right, so let's Rivki.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about Yosher. I feel like is there anything more specific than just like character development? I feel like I'm not understanding. Is it supposed to be vague, or am I missing something? Or
I think in our interpretations, I don't think we're getting I don't think we need a more specific idea. I think we could use it in the generic sense of like, Sisa Tova Hayashar, right? Do what is good and what is upright. Good meaning outside, upright meaning like inside, I think that's good enough for us. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's read the Ralbag, who also. But
actually, I don't know. I don't remember if we touched on this point in Chaim's approach, but did we like I know we said that the loss is for the individual too, but did we also say it's the loss for the person giving the knowledge?
Yeah, because if he were to teach, then he would learn more.
Yeah,
because you learn most from teaching. So
it's also a loss for the person too.
It is loss for the person, for the teacher themselves, and the recipients. Recipients are obviously missing out, but then the person who's who's not teaching is missing out. Yeah. By the way, I was trying to think. None of us have really explained what it means only for loss, and what I'm wondering is all the ideas we've had here are talking about like wasted opportunities, and like there's a thing. Let's say you make an investment and then it doesn't pan out. So that is a loss, but it's not like an absolute loss because you had a chance of like making something good. But what we're talking about here is someone who just refrains from doing an action, and then just it's a pure loss. Like what's the is it a Michael Jordan quote? You miss all the shots that you don't take, right? That like if you're not teaching at all when you could be teaching, so then all you're doing is losing, or if like you could have given this money and you didn't, you're just losing. Like it's not like it's a trade-off. No, you're just like losing that. I think that's like the interpretation there.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't really understand your question.
My question was, this was my dad's question: is why does it say it is only for loss, right? So I'm saying it's only for loss because it's describing someone who could have done something to get benefits and didn't do it and just gets zero benefits. Like, it's not a trade-off. It's not like he got something and he lost something. This is only loss and no gain.
Yeah. I mean, at least for the knowledge.
Certainly for the knowledge one, yeah.
For the knowledge one, like if you're not teaching, if you're not teaching anyone, then like you might lose another Talmud Chacham, down the road if you don't expose.
Right, but the point I'm making is you're losing the opportunity to refine your knowledge by teaching it. You're just losing that. Like you have an idea in your mind, right? So you have a choice. Either teach it, which will both clarify the idea for you, subject it to scrutiny, and perhaps correct mistakes, and give knowledge to someone. So you're gaining at least 3 things. But if you don't teach it, it's just getting 0. Like you just have the same idea you had like all day.
Got it. I got it. Yeah.
Okay. I want to
Can
read
I extend?
No, go ahead. Alphabetical order. Ayala, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say the idea that we were saying about money, about like where it also like is beneficial to the community. I think that could apply to knowledge too, where like besides for just you and your student benefiting by scattering it and like make it a thing which you scatter, you're making an environment where people scatter knowledge, and like that's just what is tossed around kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea. And by the way, you got to remember, okay, that the whole reason why any of you are learning Mishlei right now is because Rabbi Moskowitz scattered Mishlei, right? For many, many decades, just teaching Mishlei in every context to everyone, no matter what. And like, that's what planted the seeds in me, and that's what let them sprout. And that's like, just, and then so many of you have told me that like you've taught Mishlei or learned Mishlei with other people, and like it just spreads, and that's better for everyone. Yeah. Okay, Chaim.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the point you were saying before about the total loss if you're not teaching it. I mean, I kind of want to argue that point and say that like you're still gaining something. Meaning, like if you have like 2 paths, let's say at the top of your morning, you can either like go and teach an idea, or you can go and learn an idea. Like you're still going to gain something. You're not going to gain as much, I don't think. I was kind of grappling with that with like only for loss. So.
Okay, so let me clarify what I mean. What I mean is that so if you're choosing to do something else with your time instead of teaching, so then now that becomes a pro and con thing on this and a pro and con thing on that. But the decision of, do I teach this idea or do I not teach this idea? In that decision, like you can only go up in terms of gain. And if you don't go up, you're just going to remain flat and lose, especially losing because you're not correcting your ideas and you're not remembering them, all that stuff. Yeah. That's what I meant. Okay, let's just read the Rabag, who just gives I don't think this is new ideas either, but he just talks it out really nicely, and then we'll summarize, then we'll end. Okay. This is someone who's perfected in their intellect. Iyun here, he means like your ability to think. The more he continues to teach knowledge to people, then his own wisdom and understanding will increase. Amram, as they say, that I learn the most from my students. Someone who withholds himself from teaching Yosher to people. Now, Yosher, by the way, he seems to be learning Yosher as intellectual perfection. Okay, so he has intellectual perfection, but he's withholding it from other people. This will be a loss for him. It'll be a loss from his perfection. Because when he hides principles of uprightness from people, he will investigate it less. Okay, in other words, this is plain, this is obvious. If I am going to learn for myself, I don't really need to check it and be accountable for someone. If I'm going to teach this to other people, I better like check it through, and like I'm gonna need to like check it everything. All right. Nefesh bracha tidushan. Cancel the plans. He's going to the next pasuk. Let me just make sure that this is right. I think. Hold on. Let me just see what he does here. He might be learning a cluster of psukim here. In which case we could stop right now. We're not in chapter 22. We're in chapter 11. 11:24. He goes from 24 to 27. Okay, so all right, it just doesn't break it up. All right, that's all from the Rabag. We'll have to wait till the next week's. Okay, so let's summarize the 3 ideas we come up with tonight, and then we'll end unless anyone has questions. So Yosef had the most raw Mishleic ideas. Yosef still here? No, he's not. So the Mishleic idea of a real low lishma for giving tzedakah, which is for people to to look up to you for your wealth. And if you want that, the more people you donate to, then the more you're going to get that. And really what's going to happen is, again, Mishlei encourages you to satisfy your emotions through chachma, confident that if you do that, it'll lead to greater perfection. So what's going to be the result of, say you have a rich guy who wants the reputation of being wealthy, and he does that by donating to people. What's going to happen that's going to be good for the world and for him as a result of his ego?
People are going to get money or leave money.
Right. And then what's going to happen based on his motive?
Oh, yeah, then he's going to become this great guy.
Yeah, people are going to look at him and admire him for giving money, and he's going to give more money, and then more and more and more and more, and then he'll perfect himself and give tzedakah for the right reasons. Hopefully, but if this person tries to hold on to their power by keeping their money, then they'll lose out on that influence that they were trying to seek, and they will cause loss to society. Okay, that was Yosef's idea. Rivki's idea. I wrote here, the pasuk is talking about the benefits of tzedakah on your own character development, which is a separate track from halakhic resource allocation. By spreading your tzedakah far and wide beyond the people who are close to you, you are gaining character development benefits and improving the system. So it's benefit for them and for you. But if you withhold from developing your character through tzedakah, even if you give money, it's going to be for a loss because you're losing out on the mishlei benefit of character development, and you're not giving as much to the community. So it's a loss for them also. And Ayala and I had this idea that if you are trying to do perfect tzedakah, meaning you're refraining from doing anything less than the perfect tzedakah out of yosher, whether the tzedakah is money or teaching or helping or volunteering or anything like that, so then you are going to lose out on the good that you do for them and for you. But if you are somewhat indiscriminate and you just do as much good as possible, then then you're going to accomplish more net good for yourself and the community. Side point here, I don't know how many of you have heard of this movement called the effective altruist movement. These people who are basically trying to they encourage making as much money as possible and then giving it away in the most rational way possible to the best causes, and so I don't know much about it except from hearsay. So, it seems like they're doing a lot of good, but it seems like they could easily fall into this trap of when they're trying to work out all the best ways to do it, they could get paralyzed and then just not end up giving as much as they could. And then we had the final idea, which was Chaim, Ariel, and Ralbag, all right, which is that this is talking about teaching, okay? If you withhold your teaching on account of uprightness, okay, coming up with rationalizations and justifications for why you shouldn't teach, okay? For example, Chovos Halevavos, this is Hava Amina, okay? Then you'll end up losing out on your own benefit and robbing others of potential benefit. But if you scatter your knowledge, okay, teaching as many people as possible without regard for without discrimination, I guess. You'll sow the seeds of knowledge in the community and perfect your own knowledge in the process, thereby benefiting everyone. Okay, benefiting everyone. Okay, 4 ideas. Nice haul tonight. Okay, and what we're going to do, okay, just to let everyone know for the chat, is we're going to pose this question to Zach and see what he comes up with, okay? And we'll hopefully get a good idea from him. Yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I don't know if you want to end now, but I was curious if we could also develop more as I know you said we don't have to, but I think I was still thinking about my idea. Yeah. And I feel like I would want to know specifically, it's just still very vague, I feel like. Okay, sure.
So you want to hear something funny? So yeah. I think every night when I do the WhatsApp message, I put the shiur time from 7 o'clock to 8:15, and it never ends at 8:15. It always ends at 8:30. And so today I told myself okay, I got to be realistic. We're going to end at 8:30. And this is literally the only day we've ever ended at 8:15. So I'm totally fine with going on and developing your idea more. If anyone has to go, then they can go. So let's figure out what is vague. Are you talking about the what you gain from from deviating from like the strict hierarchy, or are you talking about like what part stands out in your mind as vague?
I think that, yeah, like the Yosher, like what character traits specifically are you developing and what are you losing out on if you don't go through this method?
Okay, right. So the reason why it's difficult to answer this question is because see, you use the example of like giving based on the hierarchy, which I think is a good way to talk about it. But in the other examples we gave, we talked about that there are so many other ways to perfect yourself through tzedakah, right? And each of those ways is going to perfect you in a different manner. So like, I don't think we come up with an exhaustive list, but like, you know, if we can come up with more examples, it'll just give us a better picture. So like here's an example. I mean, like, you know, sometimes like you have to give tzedakah to someone that you don't know 100% that they're going to use the money in a way that is like, you know, the best way for them to use it, right? But tzedakah, the halachas of tzedakah don't care about that, right? Like, so what does that show? So like, let's say you force yourself to do that. What imperfection is holding you back from like, you know, giving that money, and like, what would giving that money, how would that perfect you? If that makes sense. Like, let's give an example. Like, let's say you see someone who's very sketchy looking on the street, okay, and like you give them money and you like hope that they buy food because they say that they're starving, but like maybe they'll like use their money for like more nefarious things, you know. Now, if you knew that they're going to use their money for like to engage in like self-harm or harm of others, that's a different story. But right, but like you don't know what this person is going to do with the money, right? So let's say so that's an example. You want to withhold from Yosher, right? I know I'm reading Yosher differently, right? But you want to withhold. You think you have a good reason to withhold, right? So what perfection are you getting from like giving that money in that case?
Well, I was thinking two things. I think the first thing that came to mind was honestly like Dan Lachavskus, which is a very important thing. Yeah. And I think the second one I was thinking, which was more basic, was just like that attachment to money that like, in a way, I feel like when you're giving to someone, you know, it's almost like, oh, even though it's like kind of when we talk about legacy, it's like, even though you're going to die, like, you know, that maybe somehow like, but even Shlomo says like, you don't know if your kids are going to use it.
Right.
So, like, I think we have this like psychological, like
ego related thing that you want to be.
Like, oh, like, even though it's not really mine, like it's kind of still mine. So I think.
Interesting. That's related, but different from what I was going to say. Anyone have any other thing that you might be getting from giving in that case?
I was thinking maybe this is I don't know if it's exactly the same or a little different, but like the control over your money of like in the sense that it's yours and like you could control it. So like if someone else is using it to do what you want, then like it's the same.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like what is what you've essentially set up as a precondition? I'll give you money if you do with it what I approve of, you know, but that's not giving money. Like giving money means that you can spend on whatever you want, you know? And so I think that that's another benefit that you get if like you are truly relinquishing control over this money, you know, it's going into their control. Another example, by the way, is that sometimes, you know, you have what you think is a proper use of money, and because you're not poor, you don't see that the way they're spending their money really is a good use. And an example of this I heard, I can't remember who I heard it from, is, you know, people will criticize, you know, okay, have you heard the phrase before? The, what they call the lottery? Like there's a slur that they use about the lottery. When people wanted to grade the lottery, they call it the poor tax. Okay, because so many poor people buy lottery tickets, you know, and now anyone knows that if you calculate it mathematically, let's say, you know, there are people who spend, let's say, $10 a week on lottery tickets. I don't know how much lottery tickets cost. I've never bought one, right? But like, let's say they spend $10 a week on lottery tickets. If you put, you know, $10 a week into a savings account, right, or investment, it could balloon into like a significant amount of money, like by, certainly in decades, right? So people look at the poor and they say like, this is just a waste of money, right? But then I heard someone say the argument that no, when they buy lottery tickets, it's true that the odds are not that they're going to win, but what they're doing is they're buying hope, you know, and part of being in dire poverty is there are no perspectives on the horizon, and so there are people who just don't have the willpower to keep going because there's nothing is going to get better, but if they buy a lottery ticket, that gives them like this feeling that maybe there is hope for me, so that's an example where like, yeah, I wouldn't buy a lottery ticket, but if I truly empathize with the poor and I realize maybe their priorities are different than mine, then I would realize that like, I should let them make their own decisions with their money, so that's the kind of benefit that you might get from this kind of giving. Yeah.
Can I challenge that?
Okay.
For multiple reasons. One, like it's not just us that's controlling our money. It's like aren't we not supposed to give money to a poor person if they like would use it for harm or whatever?
Well, I said that.
Right, I know. So like,
but I'll tell you what though. I mean, I know that I've given money like on the streets of cities, and I know people buy hamburgers and fast food, and you know how harmful that is, fast food. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna legislate that only if you buy like nutritionally
that's different. Like that's
it's different. So what's the difference?
Okay, fine. Why don't we just backtrack a little bit and just explain exactly what are, like, if you know that they're gonna buy something that's harmful, what exactly what do they need to buy such that it'd be harmful? Exactly.
Ask Shaila. I don't know.
You don't know?
Ask Shaila. Yeah.
But
I think there's a Moshe Shaila on that, right? Like if you know that let's say you see a homeless person who's just totally drunk, and let's say like every time you see them that they're drunk, chances are you give money to them, they're going to buy alcohol. So the question is, do you give them money or not? I don't know what he paskins, but I think that is a Moshe Teshuvah.
No, but that's not even my point. My point is that it's still not you controlling. It's still not you controlling exactly where the money would go. It's just you still have a guideline that you're following.
Right, but I'm asking what emotion is it coming from, and Ayala, I mean, there's not the only answer, but Ayala thought similar to me, which is that I want, like, if you're giving money to your kid, you want them to use it for good purposes, right? So this is like, well, I'm only going to give the money to this stranger if they use it on terms that I'm okay with. I'm saying if that is the emotion that is preventing you from giving money, then that might be something to work on.
Yeah, but the emotion is coming from the guideline of halacha.
Yeah, and Rביnu Bachia's rationalization came from the fact that he doesn't know how to write Arabic.
I don't understand what
I'm saying is that there are many ways to come up with reasons, that are good reasons, but what you're really doing is just indulging in a part of your psyche that is inhibiting your character development.
Sorry,
say it again, Chaim.
I was just saying, like the example earlier about giving the highest level of tzedakah halachically, like doesn't necessarily mean it's going to perfect you in the most
right.
Which to me at first sounded very like crazy. Like, what do you mean? Like the best halachic mechanism is not going to yield like the best perfection. But then you understood me, and now like I get that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in others like this, Ariel, like if the thing I'm working on is that I feel so attached to my money that I want to dictate wherever it goes, and I want like each cent to be like, I don't want to feel like I'm flushing my money down the toilet, right? So if that's what's preventing me from giving to people, then perhaps what I need to do is to give it to someone, who's just going to die in 2 months. Like maybe this person on the street is just going to die.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just pointing out that I don't see it as a character harm if you're using a guideline, that limits you where you should give the money to. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think like it's like if you just give your money, to anyone, I think that's also a harm.
That's what this pasuk is saying. Yesh mefazer v'no savod. The whole point is that you're giving indiscriminately, according to what Rivki is saying. The Rivki's approach, not mefazer.
But it also needs to be done strategically and with common sense.
There
are meforshim, by the way, who davka say.
But there's a guideline for a reason.
They davka say that's what the word mefazer means. It means indiscriminate giving. Like it's, you know, I think that's exactly the point that you need to work on, right? In other words, like maybe this is something that oh, here, you asked me to call you out on stuff, Ariel, maybe this is what you need to work on about squandering your money. Yeah,
I'm just saying, like I don't see how that's a character flaw, and like the character development is, if you're in line with what the, you know, like the Torah system, I don't see how that's a problem. That's my challenge to you. Like, I don't see, if you're in line with this.
I'll answer it one more time, okay? That there's halachos about how you should give tzedakah, okay? And what the priority is and what the different levels are, right? The highest, I'm gonna use the same example as I gave before, because it was a good example according to Chaim, okay? Highest level of tzedakah is you give it anonymously and it's received anonymously, okay? Now, let's say you have this thing where whenever you see an orphan, okay, then it reminds you of your impoverished childhood and you can't stand the orphan, okay? And so therefore you give to orphanages, but you give it anonymously, and you give it where you don't see the people who you're giving it to, right? Okay. And so you, on your halachic checklist, you could check off the highest level and you could pat yourself on the back and say, I'm living a principled life, right? But I'm telling you 100%, you're avoiding perfecting yourself, because in order to perfect yourself,
I'm not even disagreeing with you on that. Like,
so then what's your point? So then what's your question?
Or maybe I'm not articulating it like clearly. So let me think about that. But that's not even like my disagreement to you about it. It's like you're using, like, if you have just give me a minute, right?
Okay, sure.
I try to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can relate to what Ariel is saying from like a perfectionist standpoint of, it's kind of like if there is a perfect way to do it, then why not do it in that perfect way?
Right.
But then like you have to like kind of get over that and realize that yes, maybe there is a perfect way to do it, but like as humans, that's not really possible.
Right.
So, and like it won't end up being perfect because we're human. So then you can like look at it from a more realistic standpoint.
Right. And if you want to add Koheles to that, everyone's going to die anyway, you know? So like this feeling that Rifki was talking about of like the legacy, you know, I think that people like comfort themselves with the fact that it'll like have this kiyum, you know, in the world, but it might not, like, it might just like all go away, you know? I'll give an example of this. Here's an example of this. Okay. And I think I'm going to pause this recording. You know, so the Malbim says, the sages have already explained, right? We know this from Rambam. It's best to choose the middle path, right? Generosity is the middle path between squandering, spendthrifting, scattering your money, and kilos is stinginess, okay, is miserliness. Shishneim lo tovim, okay, so the two extremes seem to not be good. As Chazal say, if you give lavishly to tzedakah, don't give more than a fifth of your money. Okay, right? So you give 10th is like the amount that you're encouraged to give, but a fifth is the maximum. Okay, according to the world, if you are going to incline towards one of these two things, either giving like indiscriminately or saving. So according to the world, Tov yoser hanote el hakilus min hanote el pazranus. Better to incline towards withholding money than scattering money. Kizeya abed mehono. This guy is wasting his money, losing his money. And the guy who's saving is keeping his money and not squandering it. Omer hachacham behefech. This chacham says the opposite. Ki amafazer lo tamin me'abed mamono. The guy who's scattering is not always going to lose his money. Shilifamim aide hapizer yitosaf mamono. Sometimes. Oh, interesting way he's interpreting it. He's interpreting the yesh as like Sadigon's way from Sadigon's rules. Sometimes there will be a case. Okay, not always. Yesh means sometimes. Sometimes there will be a case. Then he'll get more money through squandering. That through this, like Yosef, his name will become great among the rich, the wealthy. The kulam yilavulo, everyone will lend to him. And he'll be trustworthy from them. Oh, okay, I gotta send this to Yosef. He was intuiting to the Malbim's shot. To the point where there is a case where a guy will squander and gather more. Someone who what do you call withholds his from Yosher. Aidi hakilus hu tamid ach lamachzor. Someone who always saves is only going to be for lack. Ki aidi hakilus v'tzaras eno, through his stinginess and his lack of generosity, yivrachu bnei adam mimeno, people will flee from him. V'yichali mamono be'ein no save no nimo, and no one's going to want to do business with him. V'imitzad onshei Hashem, and if we're talking about God's punishments, kumushbir b'sefer Koheles, yishasher yitin lo ha'elokim osher v'chulei v'lo yishlitena v'chulei. Okay, so it quotes the thing that Rifki was quoting about legacy, but he's not elaborating on that. Yeah, so that's a new idea, saying that, like, you know, through squandering, then you're going to, like, you know, there's a possibility that you're going to hit it big when people are going to, like, it's going to really make an impact, or people are going to really admire you for it. And same thing with knowledge, by the way, is that, like, you know, there are cases where, like, you know, you have a case where, like, one teacher gives a class, you know, for free or whatever, and then someone, like, gets an idea, and, like, that, like, changes their life, you know, or like that gives an opportunity for teaching, you know, or you know, whatever. So that's that.
I feel like the first part of the Malbim was kind of supporting what I was trying to get at. Like, I don't see.
You mean when we say the Svara of the Olam?
No, the Svara of the Olam is, it happens to be, the Svara of the Olam is if you happen to fall into a situation where, you know, you have to go one way or another, then yeah, obviously, you know, that makes sense. But that's almost like a B'diavad type of situation. If you could go to the Malbim, he says the ideal is to go to the middle ground, and there's still a limit on how much you should be giving, right? And that should be a fifth. But if you know, do end up choosing one way or another, you should go towards giving more, because it's like the minimum. Like that's like what I was trying to get at with the, you know, giving, you know, money to a guy who you think is going to use it for harm. Like, I
have no clue what you're saying. You giving a guy who you think is going to use it for harm is a specific case. That's not talking about, like.
But the point I was just trying to make is, like, your association with money.
Yeah.
If you are a guy who usually gives money, like a fifth of their money or whatever, and if you just decide not to give money to an individual in that specific case, like, are you going to tell me that, like, that guy needs a character development treatment? Like, that's all I was trying to say.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm saying Rivki's idea that what the pasuk is telling you is that you're giving, if you want to give in order to develop your character, then you should. Okay, well, I guess I'm saying two things. In Rivki's idea, then Mefazer meant doing it far beyond your circle. But I was using a different example with the Mefazer of indiscriminate giving, which is that's its own, either indiscriminate in terms of who you give it to, or indiscriminate about not caring what happens to it once you give it. You know, those are the two examples we were working with.
Okay, so I don't think we're disagreeing.
Okay, good. Okay, I think let's stop for tonight. I think that we got, what, like 5 ideas? It's pretty good. Yeah, nice idea. And the moral of the story is, this actually works out, because tefillah, teshuvah, tzedakah, ma'avirin as ro'ah ha'gzera. We're getting to the time of year where Aseres Ymei Teshuvah, then you're encouraged to give more tzedakah. So you have a chance to practice this, right? And you know, and I guess if you have any Mishlei moments where, like, you go out of your way to give it in the manner that is, like, goes against your emotions and perfects you, or you're giving it to someone who you don't identify with, you know, to perfect you, then go ahead and report back to the group, and we could talk about it. And then I was gonna say one more thing also. Oh, and the other moral of the story is you should teach people Torah. Right? And remember, this does not necessarily mean you become a teacher. Like, it could be like talk to, like, a sibling or a family member, or like someone, like, just share an idea, like, with you know, I still remember, I mean, I probably told, like, Rifki's class about this, maybe Ayala's class also, but, like, I still have this memory where, like, during the beginning of the pandemic, when, like, there were all, like, the meat shortages, and we had to, like, wait outside of stores for an hour to get in, you know, I was standing there, and, like, there was some frum guy, and, like, I was just shivering because I didn't bring my phone with me and my coat with me. I wasn't shivering because the coat. I didn't bring my coat with me. I didn't know I was going to be outside for an hour. And like this guy was like sitting there, from guy learning with the Sefer. And I just said, hey, you want to hear an idea? And I just told him over my whole shot on why God brought COVID and like, you know, on the whole, my whole COVID shiur. And like it started a discussion, and like the guy eventually like he was not sure what was going on. And like he put away his thing. And like we talked Torah for like a half an hour, and like other people gathered, and like it ended up being good. And to me, that was like, you know, even though I'm uploading stuff on YouTube, to me, that was the going out of my comfort zone with a total stranger just to do it. And it ended up being great, you know, great for everyone. So like, you know, don't hesitate to share Torah. And I think the most common form, by the way, in our circles of not sharing Torah with someone, Yosher, is like, you think to yourself, oh, they're not going to like it. They're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to get it. You know, you tell yourself like, it's not for them. It's not for them. Well, who are you? If you think back to when you first were introduced to learning, most of you, like, if people had withheld ideas because they correctly deemed you that you were not going to be interested in it, then you might not be here today, you know? So like, it's, you know, like you gotta like, you know, Hashem taught Torah to everybody. Yeah. Okay. I guess this is our we're not having class next week because it's Rosh Hashanah, right? So Bli Neder 2 weeks from now, and everyone have a Ksiva v'Chasima Tova, Shana Tova, whatever all the greetings are. Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Have a
Bye.
good